Well, 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 what do we have here after a week and a half of constant trade rumors, constant trade talks, and us actually covering every single new report and rumor along the way? The San Francisco 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk have come back to the table to renegotiate a contract and hopefully work out a contract extension. That right, today we are going to react to the latest Brandon Aiyuk reports, rumors, updates. We now know exactly what San Francisco is asking of the Pittsburgh Steelers in trade conversations. We also know exactly what the Niners and the Browns, the deal they had in place. We know exactly what that is, and we also know where things might be heading for Brandon Aiyuk and the San Francisco 49ers. My name is Sterling Bennett. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, and let's dive into today's show. Look, it's Saturday. The Niners play at 4 o'clock on the Pacific Coast time in Tennessee. I get that. Happy preseason Saturday, if you will. Week 1 of the NFL is back. Football is back, but there are bigger things to talk about than the play on the field. And like I already stated, according to NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, the San Francisco 49ers have made a renewed effort in recent days to strike a long-term deal with wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk. The situation remains fluid, and other teams like the Steelers are still in the mix for Aiyuk's services, but San Francisco has an increased possibility of being the return destination for Brandon Aiyuk, but that's not where the reports end because according to Jordan Schultz of the score.com, one of the more in-tuned NFL insiders, if you will, that's not named Rappaport and Schefter and Garofolo and Pelissero, said that Brandon Aiyuk had a sit-down meeting with head coach Kyle Shanahan and others in the organization where, I quote, some open and candid thoughts were expressed. Not exactly sure what those were, but the two sides have restarted negotiations on a long-term deal. And again, there is optimism San Francisco can strike a new long-term deal with Brandon Aiyuk. And isn't this just exactly what's supposed to happen? Go out there and find your worth. It's kind of like the same thing that the NBA does, right? Young players like Jonathan Kuminga, for example, for the Golden State Warriors. He wants a brand new contract. He wants a max deal. But if he hits the market, he's a restricted free agent. The Niners essentially used Aiyuk's fifth-year option as an RFA, a restricted free agent. Go out there, find what you're worth, and we can match any deal you get. It gives us the power to, test the market, but knowing we can actually, we have the leverage in seeing what you're actually worth. And I don't know if that was the intention by the Niners. And if it wasn't, holy hell, you have gotten lucky once again. But it does seem like, for as smart as San Francisco is, and unfortunately for how poorly they've handled things, that right now the Niners and Brandon Aiyuk are headed towards making a long-term contract. That San Francisco, for as bad as they played their hand, may have played their hand perfectly. And it goes for Brandon Aiyuk as well. For as poorly as Aiyuk played his hand, he may get exactly what he wanted all along with San Francisco, where he said he wanted to be. I don't think this is two parties that don't want to be together. This is two parties that do want to be together. It's two people that want to be in a relationship with each other. Aiyuk wants to stay. San Francisco wants to retain Aiyuk. It's all about the dollar sign, the almighty dollar, the moolah, if you will. And I think Aiyuk and the Niners are kind of come to a point where, it is in the best interest of both people, both parties, to stay together, fight through their differences. And again, not to use the marriage analogy, but again, you get married, you move in together, you're together for 4 or 5 years, and something comes along that's a big bump in the road. Are you going to fight for it, or are you going to go to therapy and stay together, or are you going to call it quits and leave? Now, I'm not saying one's better than the other. Depends on the situation. If Aiyuk's asking for $35 million, see ya, goodbye. Like, no way. I don't think Aiyuk is asking for that. While the Patriots have offered $32+ million, it doesn't seem like Aiyuk is asking for Justin Jefferson-like money. It just seems like he wants around 30, maybe $28+ million. San Francisco, according to reports, had not offered more money. San Francisco, in fact, prior to the reports of Tom Pelissero saying they're back on the table, Reed talking about things, discussing things, that San Francisco hadn't offered a new deal for like 3 months. The offer they had pre-draft was the same offer on the table as of 3 days ago. Now, that's changed so far. We have no idea what those negotiations look like or if there is, in fact, a new deal on the table. But we do know this, that San Francisco and Brandon Aiyuk are seemingly, at least more so than 4 days ago, have a higher chance to re-sign than they did, again, 4 days ago. I even said this, that I think maybe yesterday or 2 days ago, that there was a 65% chance he was getting traded. But every day that passes, it's less and less likely because, again, San Francisco then continues to have research and know exactly what Aiyuk wants in an extension. Well, here we are Saturday morning, NFL preseason week number 1. Niners are in Tennessee, and it seems now it's flipped, where it's 65% chance likely he stays, but there's still a chance he does leave. That said, it's not as if things are easy. It's not as if things are all hunky-dory, if you will. There's still some bitterness. There's still some, every time San Francisco reportedly sits down for a meeting with Aiyuk, it's always, they have to get some things off their chest. Yes, San Francisco didn't like the social media posts. Yes, according to Mike Silver, the bro hug of Aiyuk to Shanahan kind of being used as a ploy to the media, knowing that people in the stands and media are recording them. Shanahan didn't like that. But again, it's not like money can't fix the problem. And if the Niners have Aiyuk, they are going to win more games than without him, right? And so you're going to win 10+ games, likely, if everyone stays healthy with Aiyuk. Winning fixes that problem for both parties. And it's not like these things carry over. Like some organizations, mainly poorly run organizations, owners hold grudges. Carolina, big issue there with David Tepper. He holds a grudge. He's a bad owner. James Dolan with the Knicks, terrible owner, holds a grudge consistently. Al Davis, albeit has had his success in his career, terrible owner pre-death, and RIP to him, but he held grudges. He had favorites. He played the politician card a lot. Jerry Jones, the same thing. And again, they've won Super Bowls for sure. But John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and even Jed York, albeit York has had his issues in the past, in recent history, they don't seem to be playing favorites, where if they re-sign Aiyuk, it's over with. It's done. You've put your name on the dotted line. Everything that happened before is over with. Forget about it. Move on. Erase it from your memory. It's done. And I think there's a real chance that if they do strike a deal, there's not going to be lingering effects of this. Like take Nick Bosa, for example. Nick Bosa even said that late in their contract negotiations, he thought, I might get traded. Now, that, of course, was not going to happen, but it's not as if it's not as like Bosa winning that negotiation, not like him getting a record-breaking deal, even more money than what San Francisco wanted to give him. They don't hold a grudge. They know his worth. I think San Francisco, and the same thing for quarterbacks, right? When they signed Jimmy Garoppolo to a massive, at the time, highest contract ever, while yes, there were some downs and there was also some ups, by the time it was over with, that deal was like the 13th or 14th ranked deal in all football. And at that time, you can justify that contract. Where I think in the next few years, once Jamar Chase gets signed and T. Higgins eventually gets signed, and I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody else, CeeDee Lamb gets signed, Aiyuk's contract, even if it comes in as let's say it's the third highest contract ever, it'll be the 8th by next year. And at that point, you can move off guys. And I've always said this, it never made sense for the Niners and Aiyuk to part ways. I mean, Deebo Samuel's almost 30, going into his age 29 season next year, often injured. George Kittle's in his 30s. He's a free agent, I think, in 2 or 3 years. Fred Warner's getting older. Trent Williams is getting older. Teams that want to keep their window open need to sign that next wave of stars. Brock Purdy being one of them, Brandon Aiyuk being the other guy in line for that job. As a lot of veteran pieces that are great and part of the current core depart for either other destinations or retire altogether, you're going to want to have guys like Lenore and Hufanga and hopefully Jair Brown in a couple of years' time and Brock Purdy and Aiyuk to keep that window ajar. That way, when you get more talent through the draft and free agency, they can be your next core, and you can surround them with the talent to maybe reach the mountaintop one day. Good teams don't trade 26-year-olds or rising stars. Who's to say Aiyuk in 2 years' time, if Deebo Samuel is indeed gone or George Kittle's gone, doesn't have 100 receptions? Now, again, I understand he's currently the fourth option. We all get that. There was context to why that may not happen. But what if Christian McCaffrey goes down? He already is hurt now, and he did say if there was a game this week that actually mattered, he'd play. But still, those guys aren't getting younger. So why would you willingly let go of your star receiver? Now, despite the reports of them coming to the table and renegotiating a deal and being more open to Aiyuk staying and the Niners hoping they can get a deal done, Brandon Aiyuk did have a little bit to say about that on social media, and he was responding to Brad Graham's post on the SF Niners in regards to the Pelissero news. And Aiyuk responded stating this, Brad, the Niners be in the media every day, LOL. It's two options out there. Pick one and stop dropping reports. Simple. Now, what do you make of that? To me, the way I read that and the way I understood Aiyuk was saying was like, look, stop leaking reports to Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero and Garrett Bolo. Stop saying in the media that, oh, we might come to a new deal. There's renewed optimism. Just get to the table and start talking. If you really care about this, if you're talking about, you're really pushing for one thing to happen, whether it's a trade or a negotiation of a new deal, stop yapping. Start doing, right? You can't be all talk, right? It's like, are you all bark and no bite? Aiyuk is essentially saying, stop barking, start biting. If you really care about this and you want to get it done, stop telling the insiders what's happening and start getting to the table. Let's have a meeting. Let's start sharing offers back and forth, and let's figure this thing out. You either keep me or you trade me. Pick one. I'm tired of this. You're tired of this. I'm tired of every single day seeing reports of my name in the media. Now, of course, this helps Brandon Aiyuk, that there seems to be somewhat of a dysfunctional relationship between them because it makes other teams feel like, hey, we can acquire you from San Francisco. And that's why teams like the Patriots had a big offer out there, albeit it was declined by Aiyuk and probably wasn't enough for San Francisco. The Steelers still feel like they're in the mix. And as of this morning, albeit again, I don't believe a deal is likely today, although it could still happen. On NFL Network, Rappaport said that the likely option is Aiyuk's going to be in Pittsburgh, which Bobo still believes Aiyuk's leaving. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe it is just me wanting the roller coaster ride to end and be over with. I'm sick. I'm nauseous. I'm just like, let's play some football and get this stuff done. But it's not like Aiyuk staying is a guarantee. But it does feel like a resolution is going to come very, very soon. But Brandon Aiyuk also is saying kind of what I just said. Let's get this thing figured out. Let's get this thing put behind this. I'm tired of, again, seeing my name in the news. I'm tired of dealing with this when in actuality, the Niners, you are not doing your part. You're not coming to the table. You're not meeting me halfway. And I think he's kind of saying, look, if you're going to keep putting my name in the news and telling all these insiders what's happening and not actually come to the table and negotiate with me. This is why I don't want to be here, for one of many other reasons, albeit some of them not justified, in my opinion. I don't really think he wants that. I just think it's leverage play. But we do know now what other teams are offering and what San Francisco is asking for. Now, it's funny in regards to what other teams have offered and what actually San Francisco has accepted, although Aiyuk has declined. We now know what the Browns offered, and it's kind of what we speculated it to be. According to Matt Mayoko of MEC Sports Bay Area, one of the most in-tune people inside San Francisco HQ, said the trade that the Niners agreed upon, that they were willing to shake hands and get a deal done, was going to send Brandon Aiyuk to the Browns. In return, San Francisco was going to get Amari Cooper, a seeming to be 2025 second-round pick, and a fifth-round pick either this year or next year. So Aiyuk goes to Cleveland for Amari Cooper, a second-round pick, and a fifth-round pick. Brandon Aiyuk declined. But then like Aiyuk responded to the reports of the Niners and him coming back to the table and there being this renewed vigor to get a contract done, Amari Cooper responded on Instagram being like, well, that doesn't sound too bad. I wouldn't mind going to San Francisco, LOL. And it's like, holy crap, like the Browns, while the Niners have their own issues, the Browns also might be hurt by this. And I have no idea if it's the Niners leaking that out to the media of like, hey, we had this deal in place and Aiyuk said no. But then we also learned what the Niners asked the Steelers for. And this one is kind of hard to decipher because, yes, in this apparent request by San Francisco from the Steelers, where the Niners would send Aiyuk to Pittsburgh, the Niners apparently asked for a combination of second-round picks and third-round picks. So we don't know if that's one second-rounder and two third-rounders. We have no idea if that's two third-rounders or, whatever the combination is. We have no idea exactly what that is, but it seems like there was going to be a request of either one second-round pick or two second-round picks and a third-round pick or something. But I'll tell you what, what the Niners had in place with the Browns, way better than what the Steelers could offer. And this has always been the sticking point as to why I believe, for as hard as negotiations have been, for as annoying as this has been for the fans and Aiyuk in San Francisco, for as disgruntled as we might all be at this point, the Steelers simply cannot offer what the Niners are asking for in return for Brandon Aiyuk, especially now that we know what they actually agreed upon. You could think what you want of Amari Cooper. He's going to start. He'd be your number 2 receiver. He'd be a great separator. He could work the slants. He'd fit Shanahan's offense, minus the blocking, really well. He's had over 1,000 yards almost every single year in 7 of 9 seasons, 1,000 yards, and a lot of bad quarterback play in there. He carried the Browns offense with Joe Flacco last year to the playoffs. Amari Cooper is a really good receiver that would be a receiver 2 instantly. And although a drop-off, not a drastic one of not getting a receiver at all or having to play Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, or Chris Conley there. You're getting someone that can supplant Aiyuk for a season, that can replace him for a year, then let him walk in 1 year's time. Then you add in a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick. So Pittsburgh would have had to offer like 2 second-rounders, 2 third-rounders, and if they don't want to give up Pickens or Pat Freiermuth or Alex Highsmith, Pittsburgh doesn't have the ammunition to even match what the Browns offered, let alone give San Francisco what they actually want, which is why I think a deal really is not going to come via trade. It'll come via a new extension with San Francisco. It doesn't make sense for the Niners to trade Aiyuk. They don't really want to trade Aiyuk. They're only doing this to, one, see what the market value or For Aiyuk to actually get an understanding of what his market value is, it's not $32 million. It's maybe not even $30 million. From the reports I've seen, Pittsburgh hasn't even offered $30 million. It's around 28 and a half, 29 maybe. So Aiyuk's money, if he requested 30, he might not even get that from Pittsburgh, which only helps San Francisco because they're saying, okay, we have now a better understanding of your market value. We can strike a deal here. We can give you what Pittsburgh's giving you, or we can give you near what Pittsburgh is giving you with a franchise quarterback, a great head coach, consistent winning in a relatively good division with the Seahawks and the Rams still vying for a playoff spot. And the Rams are going to be good this year again. This all kind of comes to a head of, San Francisco, despite not having trade leverage, almost used the trade leverage they didn't have to help give them more leverage in contract negotiations. But it doesn't mean they did this thing right. It just means that's kind of the outcome I think we're heading towards of, okay, they offered you 29, we'll give you 28 and a half. But I ultimately think this comes down to guaranteed money. I think the issue isn't exactly the per year value. I think it is guaranteed money. And it's always been guaranteed money. But people see the per year averages and go, oh my goodness, $27.5 million. That's so much money per year. They don't see that per year. They never see that per year. I think this comes down to Jed York being like, look, we've given Fred Warner a big guarantee. We gave Nick Bosa a record-breaking guarantee last year. We're going to have to give Brock Purdy a near record-breaking guarantee contract in 1 year's time. We just gave CMC more guaranteed money. We're going to give Trent more guaranteed money. My goodness, how much guaranteed money can I give you out of my own pocket? It's not like Jed York can't afford that. So I think this is, well, yes, San Francisco, for as painful as it is probably going to come out towards the winning side. And by that, I mean keeping Brandon Aiyuk. I also think that Aiyuk is playing San Francisco smartly and calling out their BS of again, if you really care about this, tell Jed, come down to the table and up the guarantees. Now that's me reading into this stuff a little more than maybe I should, but I think ultimately, this is not that far off. And that's the frustrating part is you can get this done, so get it done. Fish and Chips says here on the YouTube chat, make him sit on his butt in all caps in 2024. You could do that. You could. I am of the opinion that if you do that, well, yes, you can. Yes, it's legal to do that. There is a gamble of losing games. There is a gamble of, let's say you get into week 6 and you're 3-3 and the receiving core is pretty bad. Pearsall's still injured. There's Deebo Samuel is really great, but then Juwan Jennings isn't who he's been, or it just opens a door for negativity. And also it opens a door for, even I said that was San Francisco's kind of last overall play of retaining him. Fine, sit out, see what happens, fine. Keep him a metaphorical prisoner. I think that now kind of thinking of it in retrospect, I think that would piss off a lot more teammates and people in that room than trading him away. And that may be a cause for concern because then it's an issue. Then it's now Lenore's pissed and Deebo's pissed and Juwan Jennings is pissed and Purdy's pissed and, they'll get over it over time, but it's not really what you want to do in a time where, well, yes, you can do it. Might be worse than it actually sounds. Fish and Chips also says here, don't want to extend him now, make him play on the 5th-year option, limit his snaps, or bench him. I don't want a malcontent dropping a crucial pass with its head in it. I would be more concerned about the injuries. If let's say this thing lingers. Let's say that it goes until, prior to week 1 against the Jets, kind of like how Bosa did last year against Pittsburgh. Bosa didn't really run into form until week 4 or 5, which it's 18 weeks in the season. It's about 12, 13 games, and he was really good down the stretch in the playoffs, but I'd be more concerned about the injury stuff. Is his body right? Is he healthy? We've seen all through training camp so far, hamstring injuries to Cowing, Garendo, Tay Martin, Logan Thomas, who just got cut. The last thing you want is for Aiyuk being his major, positive trait as a separating route runner. You cut wrong, oh, my hamstring hurts, you're down for weeks at a time. I'd be more concerned about that than his head not being in the game. Kawachipto says here he's getting extended. He wants to be there. Business is business and football is football. I agree. I think once you put pen to paper, all this goes behind you and you're done. Kawachipto also says Aiyuk requested a trade to get his market rate for his services. I also think that's why San Francisco said, okay, fine. Go out there and see what you got. Go out there and see what you got. He turned down 32 from the Pats and 30 from Cleveland for 20 at SF. Ultimately, I think, and it's going to be so funny when this thing comes to a head, if the outcome is an extension, it's going to be really funny to find out that if the deal is exactly what I said it was going to be, that being the $28.5 million that Jalen Waddle got and the near guaranteed money that Amon-Ra St. Brown got. It's not like they didn't think they were going to come to a deal before. It's not like they didn't have a deal in place before the draft. They did. They did. They were going to finish this thing off, then bang, Waddle and Amon-Ra St. Brown got paid, and it changed the entire outcome of what we've seen so far. It changed Aiyuk's perspective on things, and it changed the market for everybody. Bobo says here and asks, but can we extend Aiyuk, Trent, and Brock Purdy? The simple answer is yes. There seems to be this misunderstanding, this misconception that the Niners are in cap hell or are waiting to be or about to be in cap hell. That's not true. In fact, the way the Niners do these extensions are they usually don't really escalate until year 3. And that happened with Fred Warner and George Kittle, which is why we've seen those extensions, those contracts kind of redone over the last few years because they're kicking in now. Bosa's not going to kick in, I think, until next year. So you are going to see escalation, but ultimately, at least for this year, if they extend Aiyuk this year, they can lower that cap hit from like $15 million to like 10 or 8. They can free up half that money and roll that over. Same with Trent Williams. You extend these guys, albeit, yes, you're going to have to pay them more money down the road. You can't afford to do that because all you're doing, and this goes for Trent especially, he's an older player. If he wants a 2 to 3 year deal, going to be inching towards or in his 40s, is he actually going to play that long? I hope so, if he's a Hall of Fame level player. But the hope would be you give him a 2-year deal. He retires in 2 years' time. Once Purdy's contract kicks in, once Aiyuk's contract kicks in, you have 2 years to replace him at left tackle. I love Trent, but he can't play until he's 45, right? But yes, they can't afford these guys. The beautiful thing about the NFL is that you can carry over cap. San Francisco currently, I think, has an estimated $32-ish million in cap space. Well, yes, they're over the cap or projected to be over the cap next year. You roll what you have over into next year. And again, once you save money, extending Aiyuk and extending Trent or redoing his deal, you're going to have like $50 million cap to roll over. You let guys go. You can cut guys. And look, let's be honest here. It's not like a roster is ever set in stone. The Niners, I think, have a non-guaranteed contract of Malik Collins for $10 million they can let go of in 1 year's time. So if you got to bring in some more depth, you got to re-sign some people. You can cut Malik Collins, and if he's bad, but if he's great, redo that deal, save some more money. It's not like they can't renegotiate things. It's not like, I hate to say this, but if Dre Greenlaw is not who he once was after his injury, or Hufanga comes back and isn't, who he once was, you can maybe get those guys at a discounted rate where you have money after extending Aiyuk and extending Trent Williams and renegotiating some more deals that you'll have extra funds to pay Brock Purdy to round out your roster. it's not like, although the per average contract will be $53 million for Brock Purdy, he's not getting $53 million each year. His cap hit's not going to be that grand total. Yes, it'll be a ton of money. Yes, it'll be, this like, holy crap, you work around that for sure. But it's not like it's going to be signs a deal, cap hit skyrockets to $50 million. That's not how that works. And if you want to go further into it, again, you can get carryover cap every single year. You can let guys walk in free agency. You can renegotiate deals. You can ask guys to take pay cuts. No roster is ever set in stone to a point of the roster you have today is the exact roster you're going to have next year, nor is it the exact same contracts each player is going to have next year. San Francisco literally just asked Kyle Juszczyk to take a pay cut. Did that bother him? Yes. But some players will do that. Some players will take their cap hit, get it down, and take more guaranteed money, which is probably a big sticking point for Jed York. I'm already redoing all these deals. Now I have to give Aiyuk more money as well. That's frustrating for him. I totally get that. And there are other players like Lenore and Hufanga and Greenlaw. In a couple of years, it's, Aiyuk's there. And then in 4 years, it's Pearsall and Juwan Jennings in 2 more years. And it's not as if that this is ever going to go away. Jed York knows this. The Niners know this. But what's worse? Trading away Aiyuk to Pittsburgh for, let's say it's a second and third round pick, or re-signing your star receiver who in 2 years' time, maybe you're number one because Deebo is older, he's injured, or you can get out of that contract in 2 years' time. There is no promise for as great a shape as he is now, and knock on wood, I hope he stays healthy. There's no promise for tomorrow. Kyle Shanahan said we could be dead on Saturday. I have no idea if we're going to be alive on Saturday. Who knows? Who knows? What if players like Brock Purdy, for example, expected to get, according to Bill Barnwell, I don't believe this, but the $325 million contract. It's crazy. It's crazy. $65 million per year. Crazy. Crazy. Who's to say, and I hope this is not the case, I'd rather pay Brock Purdy what he's worth. I hope he goes off again. If he's worth 65 mil, you can get 65 mil, brother, but there's no promise he's going to be worth that money. What if he takes a step back this year? What if you let Aiyuk go and Purdy isn't the same guy? Now, I don't think that's going to be the case, but Aiyuk and Purdy are tied at the hip. They have the best chemistry. What Purdy's strengths are only elevate what Aiyuk is really great at, and vice versa. To me, you don't separate your star receiver and your star quarterback. I would rather, and I hate doing this because it's picking a side, I'd much rather retain Brandon Aiyuk than Juwan Jennings. But here's the kicker. You can do both. You can do both of those things. San Francisco not only has the funds, they have the need, and both parties have had the want to get a deal done. And sure, I get it, fish and chips. Aiyuk pissed off people going on the Pivot podcast saying what he said. Coaches, players, fans. I totally get that. That doesn't mean that it's over. It doesn't mean you're Bill Paxton and aliens, where it's game over, man. Game over. You're not fighting Xenomorphs, brother. Just tell Jed to open up the paycheck. Open the freaking, open up the checkbook. You can get this thing done. And I think, again, we are, I don't want to say in the end game now, but it certainly feels like in the next few days, whether it is today or tomorrow or later in the week, that this thing is going to come to a head. And whether it is a trade or an extension, the only people to blame, unless we find out Aiyuk wants like $45 million, I don't think he's asking for that. But the only people to blame for this is probably going to be ownership. It'll be San Francisco themselves. And I get it. You can dislike Aiyuk for what he's doing. Social media post. In fact, yesterday, a Steelers fan had a picture of a custom-made Brandon Aiyuk jersey. They tagged Aiyuk in the post on his Instagram story. Aiyuk responded saying, tough. Like, that's cool. I just think Brandon Aiyuk wants money, wants to win, and more importantly, just wants to get this thing over with. And San Francisco has all the means to do all those things. And again, if you want to call it playing prisoner or him being, a metaphorical prisoner, and this has always been the point here, San Francisco doesn't have to do anything. Anything. They don't have to move him. Even if it's likely he's traded, they don't have to do anything. And San Francisco, deep down, knows they need Brandon Aiyuk this year. Does he have to be the center point of the offense? No. Will he be what makes or breaks your chances to a Super Bowl? Probably not. Aiyuk isn't that guy. The Dolphins, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, are likely, I won't say never, but they don't seem to be built for the winter months, which you have to be if you want to go to the Super Bowl. A lot of great teams, 2007 Patriots, had a Randy Moss and Tom Brady, one of the greatest receiver tandem season ever, didn't win a Super Bowl. In fact, Brady targeted Moss on the last drive, and there was an incomplete pass. You know who won that game? And the NFL has changed, and I totally get that. But Eli Manning and David Tyree and Plexico Burress won that game. And the Giants' defense, mind you, which was phenomenal. But it's not like San Francisco is sitting back like, oh, our season's over without Aiyuk. It's not over. You watch a preseason game, the whole world is relishing in Caleb Williams made an off-balance throw running to his right. Yeah, so has Brock Purdy 90,000 times. Now, I hope Caleb does great. We play him this year. He's probably going to be phenomenal. It'll be a great game to watch. Also, the Rams, Puka Nacua is hurt. Other guys are hurt everywhere. Injuries happen. Should the Chiefs have won the Super Bowl last year with the roster they had for as inconsistent as they were? No. Things happen. They didn't need Aiyuk. They had terrible receivers all year until Rashee Rice came along. It's not like San Francisco can't win it, or it's not like San Francisco wouldn't win the Super Bowl without Brandon Aiyuk. Now, he's a darn good receiver, darn good player that they can resign, that they should resign, that I think they will resign. But he doesn't make or break their season. He's not going to make or break their salary cap. And I hate that narrative of, well, they can't re-sign everybody. They don't have to re-sign everybody. But you should re-sign a player like Brandon Aiyuk. You don't have to re-sign Charvarius Ward. You don't have to re-sign Hufanga. You don't have to re-sign Greenlaw. You don't have to retain Malik Collins. You don't have to retain Leonard Floyd or Yetur Gross-Matos. You don't have to go out and, retain Aaron Banks next year. But what you do is you re-sign the guys that are ascending, that are younger, and seemingly have the best chemistry with the guy you definitely are going to pay in Brock Purdy. If there was any player besides Brock Purdy on the current guys about to get paid, Aiyuk and Hufanga and Greenlaw and Lenore and Brock Purdy and others, there's two clear answers. You're going to pay Brock Purdy, number one. Yeah. You're also going to pay Brandon Aiyuk. And to me, Mooney Ward, you might let walk. You drafted a guy that can maybe be that in a year's time or 2 years' time. You're going to get younger somewhere. You have to get younger somewhere. You're going to have to shed contracts somewhere, but the contracts you shed aren't the star receiver contract that is going to be the guy in 2 years once Deebo's contract is over with. Deebo's not getting another massive deal from San Francisco. So what do? You overlap them. When Deebo's here, all-pro guy, and Aiyuk's here, 26-year-old ascending star, once they meet here, if I can get in the camera right, Deebo's 30, 29, his contract's up. Aiyuk is 28, and he has 2 more years left. Then you pay Pearsall. This is not a hard concept to there's levels to this stuff. It's not like, big deal, can't do it. No, they can. They really, and Kawachito, you're right. They shouldn't re-sign everybody. Just because you're up for a contract doesn't mean you're going to get one. But Aiyuk is one of those players that should get one. There's a big difference there. Big difference there. And I get there's frustration. I get things are pretty dysfunctional currently. And I get Aiyuk's on social media. But from all intents and purposes, it does seem like, although Aiyuk kind of told San Francisco, stop talking, get to work, that there's a winding road. The road less traveled may end in a new deal for Brandon Aiyuk. A new deal for Brandon Aiyuk. Fish and Chip says, did you consider Kyle's brain in your analysis? And I don't know exactly what you mean here, but I'm just going to use this as an example. Kyle Shanahan just said on a podcast recently that if you can't find the offensive lineman that you want to go and acquire weapons, a stockpile of offensive weapons to make sure you can score. Those guys get in the end zone, right? So you're going to trade your leading receiver, target getter, arguably besides Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, your third best offensive weapon, albeit your fourth most important one, if you will. And I can argue that if Pearsall hits, and this is a big projection, it's a big if, and I understand that. If Ricky Pearsall hits and is what we think he's going to be and could be, which Niners first-round draft picks have not always been that. In fact, Aiyuk could be the second one ever to get a new deal. But if Pearsall hits and he is a first-round talent, Aiyuk-like receiver, the projection of the offense, the ceiling of the offense as a passing offense could be better than with Aiyuk and Deebo. Deebo's phenomenal. He does his thing. He's not a route runner. He's not going to beat guys one-on-one. If you get two guys in an offense that can beat defensive backs one-on-one, they can beat man coverage consistently, they can beat press, and they can be physical, and they can get you at least one player consistently open all the time for your quarterback, that's how you win games. Deebo's great. He's really phenomenal. He is the best Niner receiver since Terrell Owens. But he's unique in that he's not really a receiver. He is, but he's not really a receiver. Is he important? Yes. Does he help you win games? Yes. There's no disrespect at all to what I'm saying. It's just there's a reason you drafted Pearsall. I don't think it was to replace Aiyuk. It was to pair him with Aiyuk. And things have gone awry, but ultimately, I think San Francisco, while they don't cave, there is going to be this, we can finally compromise. Finally compromise on something, which is a new contract extension. David Cook says, just trade them to Pittsburgh, trade him to Pittsburgh, trade him to Pittsburgh, trade him to Pittsburgh. David Alvarez says, Steeler fan here. One, thank you, David, for watching the show. But two, we need him more than you do. Respect. First off, respect right back at you. And you're right, you need him more than we do, but that trade offer, if you're unwilling to give San Francisco what they want, you're not getting him. And if the offer in which San Francisco got from the Browns is what it is in a Cooper and a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick compared to what they asked for, and Pittsburgh seemingly isn't willing to give up, which is a mixture of second and third-round picks, the trade's not going to happen. The trade's not going to happen because San Francisco still has Aiyuk's rights. And that's where it's like, if the Steelers were going to give up like this year's second-round pick, next year's second-round pick, a third-round pick, and a fifth-round pick, and a massive haul of draft picks, which Pittsburgh has plenty of draft picks. I'm not sure what the hesitation here is. If you're not moving a first-round pick, you can move a handful of draft picks in the middle rounds to get a deal done. But San Francisco would then need to move those picks for a receiver because they don't truly believe Pearsall is ready. It's a receiver in Shanahan's offense. Those things, when they're rookies, usually don't work out well. In fact, Aiyuk might be the only, well, besides Deebo. Deebo and Aiyuk are the only rookie receivers that I can think of that were first-round, second-round picks in Shanahan's offense to ever play meaningful snaps or play the majority of snaps. And Aiyuk's season was a COVID year. And then the next year found himself in the doghouse anyways. So it's not like Shanahan is like, yeah, rookie's going to be great, going to be a star. Shanahan is much more hesitant to even let rookies on the field. Like, there is no promise Pearsall plays that much. People saying he'll be the offensive rookie of the year. No. If they trade Aiyuk, maybe, but not with Aiyuk there. But I think the way things are headed, we are nearing some sort of a resolution, whether it is a trade to Pittsburgh. If Aiyuk caves and says, fine, I'll go to Cleveland, which seems like they've been told they're kind of out on things, or at least on the outside of the bubble in trade talks, or what I think is going to happen now. And I think is every day that passes, once you get by today and tomorrow and you're into next week, it's going to be, you are going to hear reports of San Francisco and Brandon Aiyuk had a positive talk today and there are positive negotiations, and you're going to hear things of they've reached a deal. And I would like to think San Francisco wants him in the building, by preseason week 2 actually practicing. And I would assume any team acquiring him would want him. And I would not be shocked if the long play, and we'll end here, the long play of San Francisco is, we'll just wait this thing out. How long can Pittsburgh actually want to do this? How long can they actually hold on to the rope, which is a trade conversation with us? Sure, it's been all the offseason, but once week 1 creeps up, once you're nearing roster cuts, that's not usually when you see a massive trade take place. Usually it's like fringe roster spots guys, like 4th linebackers, 7th cornerbacks, not usually, star receivers. And I think, when we enter today, and I would not be shocked if we see this, albeit Deebo's not going to play and Juwan Jennings shouldn't play and Purdy's not going to play. It looks like Ricky Pearsall is also not going to play today. So your receivers are going to be Chris Conley and likely Ronnie Bell as your starter, and Trent Taylor, Jacob Cowing, Danny Gray. You're probably going to see a pretty bad offense from the Niners, which shouldn't mean much in the grand scheme of things. But I think the longer the Niners wait this thing out, even if today is horrible, I'm not sure how long Pittsburgh actually wants to play the game. And that's no knock on them. They've offered stuff they seemingly thought, hey, we have the leading deal of the bunch, which I think they do. It's just San Francisco might be like, look, we're kind of hoping the Steelers pull this thing out and say we're done. Because then what does Aiyuk have at that point? He has nothing. And that's all speculation, but that could be an option out there for San Francisco. But today, leaving behind the Aiyuk conversation, I'm sure you'll hear it a handful of times on the broadcast tonight, but the Niners play the words are hard. Niners play the Tennessee Titans today at 4 p.m. Pacific Coast time, preseason week number 1. Probably going to be a bunch of backups, Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell, who I think is injured, but who knows, Cody Schrader, Patrick Taylor Jr., the terrible receiving depth we have, bunch of backup offensive linemen. You're going to see your first look at Renardo Green, Dominic Pooney, Malik Mustafa. You're going to see that 2024 draft class for the first time. It's going to be awesome, going to be fun. And if you kindly could, once the game is over with, go to 95.7 The Game's YouTube, or go to 95.7 The Game on the radio, or using the Odyssey app. You can hear me and my partner Mark Grandy reacting to the game. Yes, the Tennessee Titans, if you will, fish and chips. Going to be instant reactions, instant post-game, taking your calls, taking your texts, 957-9570. Going to be awesome. If you would also follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. You can use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save $20 off your first purchase. You want to watch your Niners play, get a small discount, $20 off. It'll pay for parking. It'll pay for a beer. It'll help increase your fun times at Levi's Stadium or at a road game as well. We also want to give a brief shout out to our sponsor and new partner, SportsSpider.com. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of searching 49ers news and having to go through Sports Illustrated, ESPN behind a locked paywall, and many other websites. Go to SportsSpider.com. They collect the latest articles, videos, podcasts, YouTube channel updates from around the web and organize them into one place by your favorite team. So if you're a Niner fan, a Steeler fan, a Browns fan, go to sportspider.com and type in your team's name. It's all going to be there for you. Every single news article, video, and podcast. Hit the link down below in the description at sportspider.com. And thank you so much for watching, listening. And I cannot wait to watch Niner football once again tonight. It's going to be awesome. We're going to react to it on Sunday. Give you a little break in your weekend. Take a break, relax, watch some football, crack an alcoholic beverage, get an iced tea, eat dinner, lock yourself away from your family so you can focus on the red and gold for the first time since February. Football is back, and when that's over with, go to 957 The Game, listen to myself and Mark Grandy on the radio doing a post-game show, or on Sunday, come right back here as we give our first stock up and stock down of the NFL preseason. Thank you to W. Travis, Fish and Chips, Kawachipto, David Cook, David Alvarez, Jonathan Medina, Papa J, Bobo's in here, Spider Nick Danger saying like and subscribe. Hit that like button as well and saying go Sterling. Mr. G also in here. Who else we got up on the chat? That's all we got. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Give us a 5-star review on the audio podcasting platforms. It's free, it's easy, and it helps the most. Enjoy tonight's Niner game, and until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett, and stay faithful.